Hello and welcome to lesson 3 of the Python Beginners course, and today we're going to be looking at the basic data types that we use, or at least 3 of them. There are quite a few more. So the first one we're going to look at today is we're going to look at strings, then we're going to look at integers, and then finally we're going to look at something called floats. Now strings we've already used in a previous lesson. A string is usually used for storing any alphanumerical data, so letters, numbers, symbols, all those sorts of things are usually stored inside of a string. And so let's have a look at that. So we can do s equals dog, there we go, and it's stored a string. If you're not sure what type of data is stored inside of a variable, then you can use the type function and that will tell you what type of data is stored inside it. So there we go, type S, and it is of class string. So we know that it is a string. Now strings are the simplest form of data, and you can't really do a lot with strings. They aren't very special. All you can really do is you can look at what's in them. So you could do sort of like S0, and it would tell us the first character of the string, which is a D. Or you could find out how long the string is by using the len function, length of s, and that will give us the length of it. But you can't do anything special with it. So if you did, for instance, let's do s equals 4, and there's s, it's 4, and if you did s times 4, okay, it won't do what you think it's going to do, which is do 4 times 4, but rather it will just, well, there you go. As you can see, it will just print out 4 times because it's not very clever. There you go. So that's a string. And interestingly, let's say if we did age equals input, how old are you? How old are you? 6, there we go. Whenever you ask using an input, any data that is got from that input is stored as a string. So if we did type age, it should say it's a string, which is all very well and good for something like your name. If you're asking for your name, store that in a string because it's there for characters, or age, because you're not really going to do much with the age. But when you start to want to do more complicated things and use maths, then strings are no good when you're doing input. So what are we going to do instead of input? No, well, we're still going to use the input, but we can't have the data that it gives us stored as a string. We need to store it as either an integer, which is a whole number. Let's put that there, whole number. Or a float, which is a number with a decimal. There we go. So let's have a look at that, shall we? Here we go. Let's just clear the screen there. So let's say, for instance, we want to do something clever. Let's say we want to calculate the area of a square. Now a square, you just have take one of the sides, any of the sides, because they're all equal length, and you multiply it by itself. So let's have a look. Let's say if x was 4, if I were to do length, the length of the side equals 4, then in order to calculate the area equals the length times the length times itself. There we go. And the area will be worked out as 16. So that works perfect, and you could use that in a program. You could create any program. Let's show you this one here. Let's just delete that. Let's call this square calculator. There we go, and that's okay. So you could use this to do any set of calculations. So let's do length equals inputs. How long is your square? And then we could calculate it. Area equals length times length, and then we'll print the area. Let's print the area. So let's run that and let's see if that works. There we go. How long is your air? 4. There we go. And it comes up with a bit of a problem. So we can't multiply the length times the length because it's coming up with a problem. So let's find out what that problem is. So let's just get this bit of code here. But actually, we don't have to do that again because it should have run it. If we do type length, we want that length type to be either a whole number or a number with a decimal. In this instance, we'll just keep it as a whole number, so which is an integer. So we want the type of length to be an integer. But let's find out what it's actually stored in when we use the input. No good, you see. It's stored as a string. We don't want a string because a string of characters, for instance, like 4, you can't multiply it. There you go. Can't do it. Comes up with an error. Even if you do it using multiply it by an integer, it still doesn't do the proper multiplication. It just sticks it together. So what do we got to do? Well, we need to convert it from a string to an integer. So let's do that. Convert to integer. There we are. And what we do is we do length equals int length. There you go. And what that will do is it will take the length that has been entered. So there's the length that's been entered. It will put it inside of the integer function, which turns things into an integer. And whatever it turns it into, the integer that it returns, it puts it back into the length variable, a new variable which is an integer rather than a string. So hopefully now, if we run it, let's do 5 area 25. There we go. Good. How long is your square? In fact, let's just put that. How long is your square in centimeters? And then area, comma, centimeters squared. Let's try that again. Let's do 6. Brilliant, 36 centimeters squared. So there you go. So it's already getting quite useful, but the important thing we've learned there is we need to convert it to an integer. So that's integers, which is fine. The next one we need to look at is floats, decimal point numbers. So let's just give an example. Let's get rid of the square calculator. There we go. Get rid of the square calculator, and let's say this time we want to calculate the circle area calculator. So area of a circle, similar to a square, but let's have a look. It is pi r squared is what we need to do. So pi r squared. Here we go. So this time, let's ask for the input. So the radius is the thing that we need. Radius equals input. What is the radius in centimeters? And this time, instead of converting it to an integer, we'll convert it to a float. So radius equals float radius. There we go, and that'll convert it to a float. And there we go. And area equals radius. What is it? Pi times, so 3.142, we'll just put it there, times radius times radius. There we go. And then we can print out the area of the circle is area centimeter squared. There you go. So hopefully now it will print out a decimal number. Let's have a go at that. What is the radius in centimeters? Let's say 5. There you go. And it prints out the area of the circle using a decimal point. And you can actually check that it is a float rather than an integer because the area is stored there. So we could do type area, and there we go. It will store it as a float. So let's move on to the next part of the tutorial, which is how we use integers and floats with our previous learning from last lesson, which is if statements. How do we use numbers in if statements and evaluations in if statements? So let's have a go at a nice simple. So we've got a nice simple activity. Let's say, for instance, we are looking at Dart scores. There we go, Dart scores. There we go. So a good score in darts is over 110, and a really bad score in darts is less than 10. There we go. So let's just ask the user for their score. So score equals. Let's have a look. In fact, actually, what we'll do is we'll get the user to enter their score in 3 parts. Because with darts, you throw 3 darts and you add up the scores, and then we'll see what they look like. So let's have a look. So dart 1 equals input dart 1 score. We'll get them to enter the first dart score. Just copy that. Dart. There we go. And we'll change that to dart 2, dart 3, dart 2, dart 3. There we go. And we need to convert the inputs to an integer. Dart 1 equals int brackets dart 1. There we go. And we could carry on doing that with dart 2 and dart 3. So we go. Dart 2. There we go. And we'll do dart 3. So you convert all the darts to integers, which is good. And then we need to add up the darts together. Total equals dart 1 plus dart 2 plus dart 3. Good. So we've got all 3 of the scores. We've converted each of the inputs to an integer. Then we add all of them up, and now we can do some clever stuff. So, as we said before, if the score is greater than 110, we can say, well done, that's a good score. And if it's less than 10, we can say that's a really bad score or something. So it's actually really quite easy. All you need to do is the same as last time, but instead of doing double equals, which means equals to, we can use greater than or less than. And it's just the same as in maths. So if total is greater than 110, then we can print that's a great score. It's a great score. If total less than 10, let's print that's a rubbish score. And then when otherwise, there we go. Because then if it's not greater than 110 or it's not less than 10, let's print that was an okay score. There we go. So we ask for the input, we convert it to an integer, we do the calculations, and then we just use less than or greater than. Let's have a look. Let's see if that runs. Dart 1 score, 45, 40, 20. That was an okay score. That's okay. Oh, actually, probably could do it printing out the total. So print your total score was score. There we go. Your total score was score. There we go. Let's try that. There we go. Dart 1 score. 40, 50, 20. Oops. Oh, that's why. I wonder why I had that little X there. That's total, not score. Let's run that again. 20, 40, 60. There we go. Your total score is 120. That was a great score. There you go. So that's it for the first part of this tutorial. And actually, let me just show you those last few bits just to summarise. Here we go. Let's just get rid of those. So if you're using with an if statement, then you need to be able to use, let's put it down here, it's out of the way. Let's have some space. You can use either greater than, which is that one, or less than, which is that one, or you can actually do a few other ones, greater than or equal to, which is greater than or equal to, and the same with less than or equal to. Right, let's show you that one as well. Less than or equal to, or you can do not equal to as well. That's it. Might as well put that one on while we're here. There's quite a few others you can use as well, but these are the most common ones. So not equal to, which is just like that, not equal to. There you go. The best way to use these is just to practice and have a go. You just put them in the if statement and just put them there. There you go, just like that. Okay, thank you very much.